Well, I want to welcome everyone in the room and everyone listening as well. This is another episode of the Wilkes-Barre Connect podcast. I am your host, Dan Kimbrough, and today I have with me the Executive Director of PA250, Cassandra Coleman. Cassandra, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
And so we're going to talk about sort of the history of America250 and PA250, how it got started, and sort of where we've gone over the last 6 years now, 7 years?
Going on 8.
Oh, my Lord. So, and then sort of where we're projected to go. I know next year, July 4th, will sort of culminate all of these things. And so talk about the journey and sort of what this is and why it's an important thing that you've been dedicating the last almost decade of your life to. So,
sure.
So I first heard about PA250 in 2019 at the Direct Effect Challenge, where it was an innovation challenge where students from the local universities were supposed to design a mailer that was supposed to go out. And the idea was something that would speak to all Pennsylvanians. And so that's where I first heard about it in 2019. But as you said, it started in 2018, even before that. So fill us in.
Yeah, so America250PA is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's commission that was charged with planning and coordinating all of the programming projects and events around the 250th anniversary of our nation next year in 2026. And the legislation passed by the legislature was actually passed in 2018, which is crazy to think about. And I've been with the commission since inception. So to your point, almost the last 8 years, and really thinking about making sure that we accomplish the mission which the legislation dictates, which is to reach as many Pennsylvanians in all 67 counties through this historic anniversary. So right out of the gate, at that point, it was Governor Wolf. So the governor and I sat down and we asked all of the former governors to be our co-chairs to really make sure that the commission received the legitimacy and the credibility it needed. Because remember, this was so long ago, I started reaching out to folks and they were like, slow your roll. Call me in 5 years. So ultimately, really getting those governors involved. And I think it was really telling because when we made those calls, Democrats, Republicans, everybody left their party affiliation at the door and they said, this is going to have impact on communities across our Commonwealth. We are in. And my whole background is in government and politics. And a lot of times when you have those high level elected officials sign on to something, they're giving you their name. They're not, really spending a lot of time and energy on different things. These governors have been actively engaged, traveling the state with me, not only lending their names, but their time and their talent and their spouses, really to make sure that this truly is something that every region and every Pennsylvania can be proud of. So as you mentioned, that was kind of how we got started. And then, we really needed to raise money. When the commission was created, again, by legislation, there was no funding attached to it. So the governor was kind of like, here, Cass, figure it out. So, I have to say, and I think I would be completely remiss if I didn't, that, I went to the folks I'm most comfortable with first. I went to the businesses and those folks that I had those relationships with, and that is here in NEPA. And it was those folks who believed in me running this, and who ultimately, gave me that fire to make sure that this was something that, again, was going to be the best thing that has hit Pennsylvania since the bicentennial. But ultimately, again, I went to so many businesses and so many folks around here, and they were like, sure, give us your collateral. And I'm like, I don't have money to buy any. But they still, again, believed in this. And that just goes to show the community. Yeah. That goes to show how, being here from NEPA, like we stick together, we support each other. And then fast forward to the Direct Effect Innovation Challenge. So ultimately out of Wilkes-Barre Connect, and in partnership with the U.S. Postal Service, the Direct Effect Innovation Challenge was born. And that is, as you mentioned, a integrated marketing campaign challenge that we issue to Pennsylvania college students every year. And when you were there in 2019, that was our first year. Yeah. We are actually launching again. It'll be our 7th.
Wow.
This year.
Good
so
Lord.
Think about that. So we just launched it actually in partnership with the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission.
Okay.
So the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission will be celebrating their 150th anniversary. So ultimately, we've challenged our students this year to come up with, thinking about the history of the Turnpike and how that has the innovation of the Turnpike and how that has changed the landscape of Pennsylvania. So the challenge is launched. We partnered with the Secretary of Education, and now we are having the students and those schools sign up.
Yeah.
So again, like to think about that was our first program.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are, 7 years later. It's crazy.
And it's funny with the direct effect. I remember Joe Boylan always talking about it started here in the basement of the Think Center, in downtown Wilkes-Barre, in the middle of nowhere is where the seed was. And so I love that you mentioned that you reached out to those you felt most comfortable with, folks here in Northeast Pennsylvania. And I think for the PA 250 Commission, for people to understand, like it really is born out of Northeast Pennsylvania. Like you're here doing it. And on Facebook, if you follow along, you see you all over the state, but then you also know that you're back here all the time as well. And so that, yes, you're benefiting the entire state, but you're bringing all of that here home all the time. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and I think that's super important. And I have a 10-year-old. My mom, well, I'm sorry, he's 11 as of yesterday. Sorry. I have an 11-year-old. But, I think that's really important because, I ultimately, was raised under my grandfather, who was a public servant for 30 plus years. And, it was, and I tell this story so often, but, it was him stopping in the car with me as I was growing up to pick up litter or trash within Exeter Borough. And he would say to me, like, you have to have pride in your community and you have to be able to do these things and you want to give back and you want to help. And I think, ultimately, again, making sure like NEPA's home to me. It'll always be home to me. It'll always have my heart. Exeter Borough will always have my heart. So I think like that's really important, especially as, again, I represent the Commonwealth nationally. And, it's a pride thing for me when, I'm presenting in DC and it says, Luzerne County, Pennsylvania underneath my name. So again, I think, being able to build this from here, I think it also adds a different perspective to a statewide initiative like this. We are not Philadelphia. We are not Pittsburgh. And a lot of communities, a lot of counties across our Commonwealth sometimes feel forgotten and feel like they can't be part of something that is so big statewide. And, I'm extremely proud to say that Pennsylvania was the first state in the nation to have all 67 counties pass an official resolution becoming partners to ensure that all 67 counties had a voice at the table. And then, as I mentioned, because of, my experience with local government, I wanted to take that a step further. I understand that small communities are the lifeblood of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We wanted to make sure that those small communities were able to tell their stories and be proud of that history and those contributions to the overall Pennsylvania story and American story as a whole. So we have over 400 local. Yes. You're talking cities, townships, boroughs, villages who have passed a resolution ensuring that their residents and their stories, their history, their proud moments can be part of the overall story of America250PA.
And I love that the notion that it's for all Pennsylvanians and you're trying to reach as many as you can, because that was one of the big pushes of the direct effect challenge was for the students walking in and out of rooms as the judge sort of watching over them, is them tackling that notion of, well, if we just do it this way, well, but rural people won't see it or they won't get to them that way. If we do it this way, well, that won't reach the young individuals, and them having to grapple with like Pennsylvania's a large state and it's not just Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. So much of it's in between and around that. And so it's great to hear that that was where you started with that basement and you're still sort of pushing that all the way through. So we're less than a year out. What are you doing every day now?
So that's a loaded question. I think so from that moment, from the Direct Effect Innovation Challenge, we were able to ultimately prove ourselves to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We went out, we raised private dollars. We had originally received a $100,000 startup grant from the Commonwealth, and we went back in 2021 having raised $1 million of private support, cash in hand, and said to the Commonwealth, there is interest here. The private sector wants to support this, but we have to make this a true public-private partnership. So I am proud to report that as of 3 budget cycles ago, we have an official line item in the state budget. And to date, as of March 31st of this year, we have matched every public dollar provided by the Commonwealth with private dollars.
That's amazing.
And we hope to continue that clearly through next year's anniversary. And I think, Dan, to your point, every Pennsylvanian, that's the goal, right? Doesn't matter party affiliation, doesn't matter county lines. We want to make sure that every Pennsylvanian can feel included and feel involved and feel like they can, ultimately participate in one of our programs, projects, or events. And that is one thing that Pennsylvania is doing that's very unique compared to other states, is that we do have a whole host of programs, projects, and events. We have actually over a dozen that have been launched in all 67 counties at this point.
Oh, wow.
To ensure that maybe somebody's interest really isn't on the historical aspect of this commission, but maybe they like to be outdoors and run and walk and hike. Well, we have the Road to 2026, which is highlighting our state parks and want people to do that and win prizes, out to see the beauty of this Commonwealth. We have an arts and culture initiative. We have education initiatives. We wanted to make sure, again, that we had so many options for every Pennsylvanian so they could find something that they wanted to participate in. And I think it's also really important to note that this anniversary is different for every person. And this anniversary is something that, this commission, while rooted in history, is a moment for us to reflect on that history and learn from it and really embrace how far we've come, but most importantly, reimagine our future. And I think, for this, especially with the world the way it is today, and not to get political, but mostly to say, listen, Pennsylvania is a welcoming state. We want to make sure, again, that every Pennsylvanian feels welcome here, that they feel that they could be part of this historic anniversary. And we want to hear stories. We want those stories told. And we want to actually look at history, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. And actually, again, learn from that and be able to then say to my 11-year-old, Pennsylvania is a wonderful place to grow up. Pennsylvania's integral role in the overall American story is one that you should be proud of. And we want to, again, be able to instill that in our next generation.
No, thank you for that. Thank you. And so, where are we going next? So now that we're at this point, we're a year out, what's next as we build up to the final celebration, I guess?
So in addition to the dozen programs and projects we mentioned, so now we are really starting to focus on that calendar of events. Yeah. What do those signature events for 2026 look like? And good news, while it's going to be sad, a lot of the programs and projects that have been ongoing for the last 4, 5, 6 years are starting to actually end the end of this year. Okay. So like our kids program, which my team looked at me like I had 8 heads when I said all 67 counties were going to reach 50,000 students. And they're like, really? We will reach 50,000 students by December of this year in all 67 counties. Wow. Our Liberty Tree Project, 67 Liberty trees propagated from the original Liberty tree the revolutions used to gather under 250 years ago will be planted in all 67 counties. 108 Liberty Bell sculptures, 3x3 fiberglass Liberty Bells will be placed across Pennsylvania in all 67 counties in partnership with Visit Pennsylvania. We will be actually producing a Bells Across PA map to encourage Pennsylvanians to get out and find these bells, see these bells. And each bell, again, talking about communities and engaging Pennsylvanians, each bell is designed by a local artist to tell a story reflective of their community, of their region. And then those bells are housed at host sites. So then there's obviously a story with the artist, there's a story with the bell, and then there's a story with most of these host sites. So we're really excited, again, to get people out, not just Pennsylvanians, tourists as well. And then as we go into 2026, we will have actually kickoff events in all 67 counties over a 13-day period in January. So you'll be on the road quite a bit. We do have obviously one coming up here in Luzerne County. And then as we move through the year, there are signatures, about 36 signature events that we will be responsible for. One of those, is the Commonwealth Concert Series, which is a priority of the Commonwealth. It's in partnership with Visit Pennsylvania. And we are working with Live Nation and we are working with Rising Sun Productions on the talent aspect of this. And I am proud to say that we are bringing one of those concerts home. Really? And we will have one of those 6, including the Philadelphia one, Commonwealth Concert Series concerts for the 250th anniversary here in Luzerne County.
That's amazing.
So really, really proud of that. And we're going to need everybody's help and support on that. But one thing I think is really important to note about the concerts is these concerts will be headliner, top tier talented concerts. They will be ticketed, but they will be free. They will be free so that every Pennsylvanian has the opportunity to create those memories with their family and not have anything out of a cost prohibitive situation.
That's amazing.
So again, really excited to be able to do that and take that concert that so many people are aware of in Philadelphia on the Parkway for July 4th and actually put it on the road. And again, make sure that every region of this Commonwealth is included in that historic anniversary.
That's awesome. I think that'll be a fun time when we finally get around to that one. So as we look here to wrap up, America250, you've been doing this since 2018. For you and for Luzerne County, what does this mean?
I think, ultimately, this was one of those situations where I was not born yet for the bicentennial. So when I received this legislation from the governor, and he was like, "Here, Cass." I'm like, "What is this? Like, what should I do here?" But after reading it, after understanding the impact again that you can have with this, and also understanding there was no playbook. There was no playbook. We had to build this from the ground up. This has become my second baby, my second baby. And I think we are very proud of the work. We're very proud of all of the different, again, engaging opportunities that we have for Pennsylvanians to feel included in this anniversary. And I think, next year as we sunset in December, we will have a full year of events. I think looking back and understanding that we did reach the next generation, that we left different legacy projects and different legacy items around the Commonwealth. But I think, again, it's just a really proud moment for me because this is a once in a generation opportunity to be able to represent our Commonwealth on a national stage like this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if we're looking online and we want to find out more information about what's going on, where events are going to be happening, where should we look?
So America250PA.org.
And everything will be laid out there?
Everything's there.
All right. So anybody in the room have any questions for Cassandra? So the question was, what do you think is the great hope for all of Pennsylvanians with the work that you've been doing?
Yeah, I think that this is a really unique moment in time, not only with the historic anniversary, but I think that something like this, like the 250th anniversary, I truly hope is something that brings this country and communities and states together. Because again, leaving politics at the door, all of us are proud in the community, the communities that we live in, that we've grown up in, that we've built businesses and families in. And I think that should be something that brings this country together. We are all hoping, I will be honest, I work with my colleagues across the country on a daily basis. And that is something, red, blue states, it doesn't matter. We're really joining arms and hoping that together we can make sure that this anniversary is something that we could all be proud of.
I want to thank you for your time today, Cassandra.
Thank you so much.
And thank you all for being here. And to our listeners as well, this is the Wilkes-Barre Connect podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Kimbrough. Thank you.